Here we are at the meeting of the Estates General on May 5th, 1789. This is the first time in 175 years that this meeting has been called. Let's see what is happening.
Bonjour, we are meeting here today to discuss and vote on the possible taxation of the Second Estate to possibly help this financial crisis we're going through. First, however, we must talk through the voting procedures and representation. There will be one vote per estate.
We're fine with that. Wait a minute. We're carrying the weight of the entire nation. We make up 97% of the population. Combined, you only make 3%. It is absurd that you get more representation than we do.
Oh, shut up, you mere commoner. You have no real power among us.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we are way more important than you guys.
We make up 97% of the population.
Pause. Okay, so we seem to be in the midst of a heated argument among estates. Before they were even able to tackle the problem they set out to solve, they got into a fight over how much representation they would get. The Third Estate is obviously angry with the result, and they will soon take action. First, however, let's look at the situation at hand. In the aspect of the political spectrum, I believe that this event is on the conservative side, which would be the right. And now to answer our next question, here's our field reporter.
Thank you, narrator. Hi, I'm the field reporter. You're going to see me a lot throughout this presentation. I'll be informing you guys on each event's impact on democracy from the French Revolution. First, we look at the clip you just saw, the meeting of the Estates General. This was the fire that fueled the Third Estate, played by me on the left, to revolt from their government, to get more of a say in how they were treated in their country. Okay, see you soon. Back to the narrator.
Remember when I told you the Third Estate would do something about their unfair representation? I was right. We are now at the famous tennis court on June 20th, 1789, where the tennis court oath is taking place. The Third Estate has recently broken apart from the other two estates, and it has formed the National Assembly, their own representative group made up of the bourgeoisie. Play.
We are now gathered here today to draft a new constitution, one that will benefit us as a people and give us the power we deserve. However, everyone here must pledge not to leave until we have finished.
Agreed.
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 Okay, now let's start. We must cover the ideas of representation based on headcount, collecting money from private companies who indirectly tax, and the abolition of unnecessary government position.
Pause. Okay, so now we begin to see the draft of the Constitution of 1791. With this Constitution, the Third Estate has liberated itself from the First and Second Estates. King Louis XVI will respond to this by placing an army around his castle, creating a panic in the Third Estate. But what happens next is more important. This event takes place on the liberal side of the political spectrum. Once again, let's go to our field reporter, who is now questioning whether this event contributed to democracy.
Go.
Hey party people of Miss Rose Honors World History Period 1 class. You guys have just seen our clip from the famous tennis court oath. This was a very courageous and democratic move for the Third Estate to do, so I think they deserve a round of applause. Okay, back to democracy. This event had a great impact on democracy. The Third Estate was then basically promising to create a new constitution and better treatment and equality, for God's sake. So we see many aspects of modern democracy from this event. The Third Estate wanted better treatment, so they decided to fight for it. Modern democracy is like this, for example, that they wanted to be able to rise in social and political means, and modern democracy allows anyone to strive and accomplish these goals. Now, again, back to the narrator.
We are now witnessing one of the most dangerous and violent scenes of the French Revolution, the storming of the Bastille. This day, July 14th, 1789, is one date that signifies the real beginning of the French Revolution. Mobs of angered commoners, bourgeoisie, and lower-class men broke down the doors and scaled the walls of this famous prison. Play.
Finally, let's put an end to this terrible symbol of government oppression. Let's tear down anyone who tries to stop us.
Yeah, let's go!
Let's kill them all.
Let down your guard.
Never.
Okay, we surrender.
Too late. Surrender won't help you anymore.
Pause. Okay, so as you can see, the bloodthirsty French revolutionaries stop at nothing to defend themselves and to tear down the worst symbol of oppression that they know. On the political spectrum, The event is radical, and now we'll see what some of our viewers think about its contribution to democracy.
Hey guys, so here I have with me a viewer to discuss this event. Here you go.
Hi, the storming of the Bastille showed the absolute fury of the Third Estate. This also showed everyone that stopping them was going to be a difficult task. It proved to everyone that the Third Estate was a strong force and this could possibly win and reform the government. This was a great step towards democracy.
Thanks, Dad. You can go now. Okay? You can go. Couldn't have said it better myself. Back to the narrator.
On this day, October 5th, 1789, the women of Paris became sick and tired of not being able to feed their families. As bread prices continued to rise, the women became extremely upset with the king. So, on this morning, because of the king's actions that had put the people in this position, the women of Paris marched to the palace at Versailles to forcefully bring the king and queen back to Paris. They were led by Marquis de Lafayette, a man they felt was trustworthy in their cause, as he had led the storming of the Bastille. Play.
Grab whatever you can find. All I have is a stocking.
It'll have to do. Let's attack!
Let's storm the castle.
Pause. Unfortunately, the march was very disorganized. Despite this, the king made them a promise. Play.
Don't worry, you'll have your bread.
Does that mean he'll help us?
I don't know. I'm tired though. I'm satisfied with what we've done.
I'm not. Let's attack until we get what we want. To the National Assembly!
Pause. We find ourselves in a rather unruly situation now. The king has agreed to return to Paris after a terrible and violent castle storming. Now, let's speak in general terms. This event falls on the liberal side of the political spectrum, and we will once again see the impact on democracy from our field reporter.
Hey again. So we just saw the Women's March to Versailles. This was a step towards democracy because it meant to show how women could fight for their rights and for their families right alongside the men. Sadly, they weren't very organized at all, and this caused the men to have a larger role in bringing the king back to Paris and agreeing to their needs. Overall, this event showed the weakness of the French government and how it was desperate and needed reform. Back to the narrator. We are now entering into the worst period of the French Revolution, the Reign of Terror. The king and queen have both been executed, and Maximilian Robespierre has taken absolute control. This was to see the start of a new republic, but instead, the window of power left open has been seized by Robespierre. Let's see what life is like. Play.
They'll never see me steal this loaf of bread.
Sir, you're under arrest. You will be jailed or you will await your pending execution.
What? That seems a bit harsh.
Shut up and come with me.
Pause. As you can see, life was not easy. In order to keep control of the nation, which was especially necessary while France was at war with Austria, Robespierre put harsh punishments into action. He even went as far as to punish those who were as less liberal than he was.
Don't you agree with my radical views?
Frankly, I don't think we should go that far.
Arrest him!
Hey!
We have to do something about Robespierre. He has gone too far.
You can do something. Frankly, I'm tied up at the moment. No.
Pause. Robespierre was then shot by his friends, kept alive, and then executed by the guillotine, ironically. As you can see, this was an insanely radical move. Let's go again to our field reporter if he isn't too afraid to talk about it. Hi, again. So let's get right into this. The Reign of Terror had almost the opposite effect on the people of France than what we've usually seen. As we've heard, the Reign of Terror caused the people of France to move towards a more conservative side on the political spectrum. This made them not want a democratic government, but the opposite. They looked for more of a ruler to restore order in France. Now, again, back to the narrator. From the depths and seeming despair of the revolution, when it looked like there was no hope left, a great hero rose from the French military, one that would change France forever. This was Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon, after great military success, brought himself into power with a coup d'etat, a sudden takeover of power, in late 1799. Play.
As your ruler and eventual emperor, I will put into effect many great laws. I will call this the Napoleonic Code, named after me, because I'm amazing. This law will entail the following: public schools, or lycées, freedom of religion, the ability to gain political power, and the provision of government jobs to the most qualified. Unfortunately, you must then give up just a few major liberties, but that's a very small sacrifice.
Pause. Napoleon then crowned himself emperor to show the Pope that no one was above him. Play.
Viva Napoleon!
Pause. The people were very happy under Napoleon, and Napoleon knew he had the people's favor. Unfortunately, this increased his ego and led to a downward spiral never to be recovered from. Before we get into that, however, we must establish this event's location on the political spectrum. Napoleon's rise to power was a sort of conservative move with the purpose of being liberal. In the act of giving the French people what they wanted, he took absolute power. Now let's see what our audience has to say. Hi! So we're already up to the first part of Napoleon's reign? Okay, let's do this. So Napoleon made the people very happy at first and caused great reforms. People were happy at first, and they thought they could gain political power and had many freedoms, which was very democratic and made a good stepping point for people to gain rights. However, this was not completely towards democracy because many major liberties were given up as a result. Now back to the narrator. Finally, after many successful years of war and politics, Napoleon's stubbornness and pride finally led him to his downfall. In 1812, Napoleon waged war against the Russians and faced humiliating defeats. This was due to the treacherous scorched earth policy used by the Russians and the terrible Russian winter. Napoleon's defeat in Russia was a precedent for many bad things to come, and it weakened Napoleon severely. Play.
Let's keep moving.
But it's freezing. We have no food and men are dying. We have to turn back.
Napoleon Bonaparte never turns back.
Fine.
We must continue to prove France's strength until it kills us all.
Fine, you can keep going, but I'm going back.
Pause. Napoleon was then sent to Elba, a place of exile, and he was forced to abdicate his throne to Louis XVIII. However, Napoleon was resistant to go and persistent to regain his power over France. But one day, Napoleon returned.
I'm back from Elba. You thought you could stop Napoleon Bonaparte? Well, you were wrong. I will retake my rightful place as emperor, and I will show you a great ruler.
Unfortunately, this began the period of the 100 days, the last 100 days of Napoleon's rule. Within this time, Napoleon got himself into another war, and he suffered his most humiliating defeat at the Battle of Waterloo. He was then sent away to St. Helena for good, where he spent his final years and died a lonely death. Now let's evaluate this event on the political spectrum. Napoleon's downfall ended a liberal part of the revolution, and it gave rise to a more conservative form of government, which we'll talk about later. Now, let's see this event's impact on democracy. Bonjour, guys! So we're all the way up to the fall of Napoleon. So this was caused by a great ego on Napoleon's part and great stubbornness. This didn't have much of an impact on democracy as the others, because at the end of it, the king was then put back into the French throne, kind of causing make a loop back to what they started with. So that's pretty much it. Okay, back to the narrator.
Finally, we arrive at the final stage of the French Revolution, which wasn't really a revolution at all. It was a new system of government. We have 5 combined forces: Prussia, Russia, Great Britain, Austria, and France. Here, we meet the representatives from these 5 great powers, including Clemens von Metternich, arguably the most influential person of this stage. Let's see what's going on. Play.
With this new system, we will make sure that nothing even remotely resembling the French Revolution ever occurs again. We will create a balance of power among all of us. If any sort of conflict arises, specifically another in France, it will be crushed immediately as the power of each country increases to equality.
I just thought of something. We should form an alliance of nations just for that purpose. Let's call it the Concert of Europe.
Great idea! This will maintain the status quo and create a new equality and peace in Europe.
Hooray!
Pause. So, now we seem to have a balance of things, or a new peace. The continent of Europe has created a balance of power and a peace that will last for approximately a century, only to be broken by World War I. However, the rest is history. Now, for the last time, and thank God for that, we will analyze this situation on the political spectrum. The Congress of Vienna was a conservative move, especially when compared to the rest of the revolution. We will also now be going to our field reporter for the last time. So until the next great happening in Europe, I'm signing off.
This is the last one? Okay, thank God. Oh, hey guys, I didn't mean that. Illy. So anyways, the Congress of Vienna, right? Its impact on democracy wasn't all that big, to be honest, which they made an alliance called the Concert of Europe, which tried to protect another country from a rebellion towards a more democratic government anyways. So one thing it didn't cause, though, was a widespread belief in nationalism. This could have the impact of making or breaking countries. Well, I guess that's all for today, folks. I'm Cecilia Model, field reporter, signing off. Bye!